Belt tension is a very important subject which has become increasingly important with the new T420, which is a mid-motor car, and this means that the front and the rear belt are the same length, and with having two long belts in the car, the belt tension has become a little more critical in this car. So that's why today I'm going to explain to you how I adjust my belt tension for the best possible performance on the track. I usually try to run the front belt slightly tighter than the rear, and the reason for doing that is because when you run different belt tension front and rear, you'll have an overdrive effect on that end of the car. So if you have overdrive over the rear, if the rear belt is tighter than the front, the rear of the car wants to pull the front and not the other way around, and that can make the car hard to drive, especially on power. So I try to run the front belt slightly tighter than the rear, and that way when you hit the throttle to come off the turn, the rear stays more stable. So this is basically to make the car handle better and to make it easier to drive. And this is more evident in modified. The stronger the motor you have in the car, the bigger effect on the handling the belt tension will have. And when you race on big asphalt tracks, especially when they're bumpy, the belt tension is actually even more critical because the wear on the belts will be higher. So on those sort of tracks, I try to use the belt tension one step harder, both front and rear, to maintain the life of the belt and to make sure that you'll have no skipping or belt breakages during your racing. So how can you be sure that you have the right tension for that sort of condition? I usually try to listen for the skipping of the belts. So when you accelerate or brake, you can usually hear that the belt's skipping pretty clearly. So for example, if you're practicing alone on the track, you can listen for the belt noise, and that way you can make sure that you have the right tension. So always listen for the belt noise. If they're skipping, you probably have to tighten the belts, and that's the indication that I use. For stock racing, especially for blinky classes, you don't have to run the belts as tight as you would in modified racing, because the power of the motor is a lot lower. You don't have the same stress on the belts or on the drivetrain, so you can actually use the belts 1 to 2 steps softer on the eccentric compared to modified, and this will give you a freer drivetrain with more efficiency, and it will also preserve the voltage of the battery for longer in stock. So it's really important to have as free of a drivetrain as possible in stock racing, because normally you don't have to worry about the belt skipping like you would in modified. So I've disassembled the car for you to see more clearly what I'm talking about. In the front, you need to turn this knob towards the back of the car, towards the center of the car, to tighten the belt. So as you can see here, mine is 3 steps towards the back from the center. So this means that I've tightened my belt 1, 2, 3 steps. And I feel that this is a good basic setting for the front with the low friction belt for modified. Especially when the belt is new. When the belt wears, when it gets older, you might need to tighten it, and also according to the different conditions which I also talk about in this video. But 3 steps tighter than center, it's a good starting point. And for the rear, it's then the opposite. So the knob needs to be pointing towards the front of the car. Towards the center of the car, but towards the front. So this means that I've tightened my rear belt 2 steps from the center. So the knob here is moved 1, 2 steps from the center standard position. So this is a good starting point for the low friction belt for the rear for modified. So it's 1 step looser than the front. Keep in mind that all belts are a little different. Not all batches of belts are the same, so you need to adjust the tightness accordingly. But you need to listen for the belt skipping noise and such to make sure that you don't have a belt that's too loose, which I'm also explaining in this video. So for the most efficient drivetrain possible, I use the following option parts on my drivetrain. I use the X-Ray white low friction belts, which are very popular options for racing, both for modified and stock. And these belts they will have less friction and will make the drivetrain freer and more efficient. So that's really important for high level racing. And I also used the graphite orange center poly, as you can see in my car here. It's orange instead of black, and has a bit of graphite mixed into the plastic of the poly, and this also reduces friction and improves the efficiency of the drivetrain. I can also recommend the Monaco RC belt booster product, which looks like this, and it's applied with a sponge to the belts, and I'm going to show you how you apply it now. So the belt booster is pretty easy to use. I'm just going to demonstrate how it works. Just shake the bottle a little bit, and we'll put some liquid in the sponge because this bottle's brand new. So when you have the sponge filled up like that, you can use it to simply to apply it to the belts like this. Just pull the belts against the sponge, front and rear. Very easy to use, very easy to apply. That way we can prolong the life of the belts and the pulleys and make the drivetrain more efficient. And it's been used in nitro classes for many years. As long as I can remember, we used similar products in nitro racing, so I figured it was time to start testing it for electric racing as well, and actually it works really well. And the team guys, especially in stock, they have had really good results with this product, so I can really recommend the belt booster as well.